Welcome our young participants. So we today going to talk about Hajj. This is mostly once in a lifetime chance that a person gets, and it is something very, very refreshing. It's a huge experience. It's a great experience. And if you're able to do it early in your life with your parents, maybe, or when you grow up, it can be a big boost because it freshens you up, it refreshes you, and the Quran has told us that it is incumbent upon the believers to do this Hajj once a year. And it's, of course, dependent on one's means and resources, which include financial resources of your own health and on your own availability as far as your schedule is concerned. Of course, this availability has to be, it has to be made because we would never get free. We are so busy in our schedules. But today I'd like to explain to you this very beautiful Hajj ritual to you so that you get motivated and inspired as far as you are able to, and you have this burning desire that you do offer Hajj whenever you get the chance. So before we start off with this with the actual topic of Hajj, let me just give you a very brief about worship rituals themselves. Because you see, Hajj is part of a set of worship rituals. So the objective of religion of the prophets of God is the purification of the soul. Your inner self is its purification is the target of God's religion. So attainment of excellence in this purification relies on a person's relationship of servitude with the Almighty. The more you are connected to Him, the more you are going to be able to achieve this excellence in purification. Uh, Love, fear, sincerity, faithfulness, and gratitude as an acknowledgement of His innumerable favors and blessings are some of the inner manifestations of this relationship. So, when we connect ourselves to God, we feel that He is taking care of us. He's someone who loves us. He has created so many things for us. He has blessed us with parents. He has blessed us with an environment that we really relish and cherish. So we feel that love for him, and we also feel some fear from him because this fear is not because, he's someone horrible. It's because we know when we will displease him, and that displeasure of the Almighty is not something which is personal. It is something much like your own parents' displeasure, because they feel angry and displeased with you when you do something which is against your own interest. So the fear of God is also because we have this fear of losing His attention and His affection. Similarly, when we feel ourselves drenched with favors, we feel that's the sincerity and faithfulness. So these are all the inner manifestations of worship, of acknowledging the Almighty. Uh, in the life of this person, I mean, the outer manifestations, they of course matter also. So just as we have this inner feeling of love and affection and sincerity, we also need to express it outwardly. So this relationship generally manifests in the form of worship, in the form of obedience, and in the form of support. So basically, if you look at Hajj, Hajj is a symbolic expression for offering support for the cause of Almighty. I mean, it's like giving yourself up for the cause of Almighty. So this is the basic introduction that you need to have about Hajj. Now, there is also some symbolism involved in Hajj, and if you're not able to understand that symbolism, we will not be able to do our due in having that perfect feeling of being drenched with God's love, because to us it would be like you're wearing two pieces of cloth just roaming around some empty field, going back to a stone building and then encircling it. So it doesn't make sense unless we have that symbolism in our eyes. The basic symbolism that Hajj stands for, I will now try to explain that. So you see, the Almighty has informed us that Satan has declared war since the very first day on the scheme according to which he has created Adam in this world. So Satan was there, and he stood up against God, and he said that I will try to lead astray your creatures, whoever you create. So it is as if Satan is at war with his servants at the very since the very first day, and he'll remain at war till the day of judgment. So it is for this war that we dedicate ourselves and devote our wealth. So, in other words, we can say that this war against Satan, this war against Iblis, has been symbolized in the ritual of Hajj. And for this very reason, it actually culminates at the very end with throwing pebbles, those stones at Jamarat, which are columns which symbolize Satan. So basically, it tells us that have gone for the pleasure of the Almighty. We have gone to dedicate ourselves. This is like a jihad we are conducting against Satan. And it ultimately symbolizes that, well, today we will now go back in our lives, and this war that we have waged in our imagination of pelting stones, of course, they were pelted in reality, but this in our own imagination, we do view that those columns or those structures symbolize Satan. And just as we are going to pelt stones with him, upon him in this ritual, when we go back in our lives, we will not let him invade us. We will not let him lure us. So this is the basic stress or symbolism that we need to understand as far as Hajj is concerned. Now, thirdly, my dear viewers, I'd like to also introduce to you the sites of Hajj. And these sites of Hajj, they have been called as symbols of God. And the Quranic words are Sha'ira, Inna Safa wal Marwata min Sha'airillah, which means that Safa and Marwa, I'll just introduce these sites to you also. These are the Sha'air of God. So the word Sha'air basically is a plural of Sha'ira. It's an Arabic word Sha'ira, and it means a symbol. It's a symbol. So in religious terminology, they connote certain manifestations which have been prescribed by God and His Prophet to ingrain the comprehension of certain realities in our minds. So just to explain this, just look at your national flag, the Australian national flag. It symbolizes the unity of the Australian nation, for example. But at the end of the day, it's just a piece of cloth. But that piece of cloth has tremendous significance. So just as that piece of cloth has tremendous significance, it's not an ordinary cloth. It has a whole history behind it, a tradition behind it to bring people together, to make them realize that this is their symbol of unity. So this is what symbolism is, that you try to inject a greater reality in the minds of people by symbolizing it in something. So in a very similar way, these sites that I'm going to introduce to you today regarding Hajj, they symbolize certain realities, just as a flag symbolizes the unity of a nation. So let's start off with the mawaqit. So there are certain areas that have been appointed as the limits before the haram begins, and which can be only crossed while you wear ihram. I'm going to explain what ihram is. It's basically there are two pieces of unstitched cloth that you wear, but this is an area that has been cordoned off, or you can say that it has been demarcated, that you can only enter uh, this area once you have donned those two pieces of unstitched cloth. So remember, men are required to do that. Women are not required to wear any such ihram. They are perfectly okay if they wear their normal dress. So these various mawaqit, just to give you an ordinary picture, a normal picture, is that it is essential that ihram has to be worn. The singular of mawaqit is miqat. So miqat basically is that area which encircles the Kaaba that you need to cross from whichever direction you are coming, so that you are wearing the ihram. So people who are coming from Medina, the miqat is Zul Hulayfa. I mean, this is something that you don't need to remember. I'm just giving you an idea. So the place where they must, before which they must don the ihram, is Zul Hulayfa. For those who are coming from Yemen, so Yemen is in the south, it is Yalamlam, Yalamlam. And for those who come from Syria and Egypt, it is Juhfa. And for those who come from Najd, it is Qarn. And for those who come from the east, it is Zato Irq. So these are the places that have been demarcated around the Haram, so that you don't enter this unless you are wearing the Ihram. And this is specifically for Hajj. So now let's go on to the next site of the Hajj, and that is the biggest site, which is the Baytullah, or the Kaaba as we call it. So if you can share the diagram, Hamza or Zishan, we would just be able to see a little more about this, or maybe you can enlarge it a little. So you can see the Kaaba is not being shown actually. It's a little behind that. So you can see Mecca being shown. If you can see my cursor right here. So this is the Holy Kaaba, and the sites that you can see are then demarcated, or they are pointed out in these red arrows. We'll see each of them one by one. But if you see where my arrow is, this is the place where the Kaaba is, which is where the Holy Mosque is. This is called the Baitullah, the House of God. So a little introduction regarding the House of God would be that before the arrival of Abraham, peace be upon him, Mecca was uninhabited. It was totally desolate. An ancient tribe of Arabia called Jurhum ruled the area and lived in the whereabouts of Mecca. Ishmael, of course, who's the son of Abraham, was married to a lady in this tribe, this Jurhum tribe. So her name was Bint Medad, and she was the wife of Ishmael. And from him and her, it sprouted the Bani Ishmael, or the Arabs that we know of them today. So when Abraham arrived at this place almost 4,000 years ago at the behest of the Almighty, the Bait al-Haram, or the house of God, because of floods and with the passage of time, had been razed to the ground. And there was no indication of it left. So remember, this is not that Abraham constructed the Kaaba for the first time. It was there much before him, only that it had been razed to ground because of floods. So through divine inspiration, God sent him this divine inspiration. He discovered its original foundations with the help of his son Ishmael and constructed a roofless building. So remember, the first Kaaba that was reconstructed after that destruction was a roofless building. This construction also could not remain intact, and with time it was destroyed. After that, first the Imalika, this was a tribe, they built it, and then the tribe of Jurhum reconstructed it. So this the same tribe which inhabited Mecca. Now, when because of certain circumstances, the construction done by the tribe of Jurhum was also demolished, the Quraysh tried to reconstruct it. But because of a lack of financial resources, it was not able to construct it on its original Abrahamic foundation. So if you can just imagine this in your mind, that originally the Kaaba was not like a cube. It was a cube that would end in a crescent. It's like an open place. It was like a crescent. And this crescent was something that the Quraysh were not able to raise it in the form of a complete structure because they went short of funds. And this open place is now called Hatim. You can see it whenever you are able to see the diagram of the Kaaba in detail, that there is a cubical structure, and just outside the cubical structure, there is a crescent-like shape that has just been demarcated, on which the original Kaaba also stood. So the Kaaba was like a cube from one side, and it ended in a round shape from the other. But when it was reconstructed, this could not have taken. This was not possible for them because we know from history that the Quraysh ran short of funds. So this was the incident that took place 5 years before Prophet Muhammad was assigned prophet. So he was around 35 years old, and we also know that he also participated in its construction. In fact, according to historians, the dispute of the replacement of the Hajar Aswad, or the black stone, was resolved by an excellent scheme that was devised by him. And he said that, well, we'll place that stone on a piece of cloth, and all the tribes will come and pick it, so that it's not the prerogative of any single tribe. Okay, now, it has been narrated that once the Prophet expressed his wish before his beloved wife Aisha, that had it not been for the assurance and comfort of the Quraysh, he would have had the Hatim included in the structure that constituted the Baitullah. So he wanted to do this, but because he thought that the Quraysh were not able to do it, he would not go beyond what they did. So to honor this wish of the Prophet, Abdullah ibn Zubair, actually, when he was ruling Mecca, we know that was a short period of time, he demolished the structure that was constructed by the Quraysh and then had it reconstructed. And the structure then was once again destroyed by stones that were hurled by Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. You might know him from history, when he attacked Abdullah ibn Zubair. So Abdullah ibn Zubair had occupied Mecca as a rebel. You can say he had set up a small government. So Hajjaj was ordered by the Umayyad Caliph to dislodge him. So for this, he actually used that catapult, and that catapult once again destroyed the Baitullah. So after this, his martyrdom at the behest of Abdul Malik bin Marwan, who was the Umayyad Caliph, Hajjaj had the structure razed down and once again rebuilt it on the foundation set by the Quraysh, and this structure is now intact ever since. So you can see in this history of the Kaaba that it was destroyed and then raised to ground and then rebuilt many times. You must have heard of the black stone or the Hajar Aswad. It was placed at one corner of the building. After it, the northern corner of the building, is called. It's basically given various names, but to give you this idea that this black stone was the only remnant of the previous construction of the Kaaba. So it was like the black stone or the Hajar Aswad as we call it. Hajar means stone and Aswad means black. So it's literally of the black stone. It was placed on one corner of the building, and it was by standing on this rock that Abraham and Ishmael had rebuilt the Kaaba. Now, the wall between this door and the Hajar Aswad is called the Multazam, and this is like a doorstep of this divine shrine, embracing which the devotees invoke and beseech the Almighty. So, uh, you would not believe it that originally this stone was white, and this white stone in the courtyard of the building, and it is said that Abraham actually stood on this very stone when he raised its foundation. So it was originally of this, but after some time it had become black, and basically it is covered by a black cloth. So that is why it is called the Hajar Aswad as well. So basically, it's originally white, but being covered by a black cloth, it is called the Hajar Aswad. Now, near this white stone is a natural fountain also, which is called the Zamzam. You must have heard Zamzam. And those who come for pilgrimage of this house, they quench their thirst by drinking this water. There's nothing holy about it. It's just as a guest of the holy shrine, you're able to drink from it. It's a fountain that has been going on for years and years, for centuries and centuries, and it is continuing to supply water. And there is nothing, I mean, there's nothing holy about it in the sense that it doesn't carry some special significance. It's just that you were able to quench your thirst. Okay, now let's go to the next site, which you can see is the Safa and the Marwa. And as you can see, that it is it might not be fully demarcated here, but it is somewhere near the house of God. And this is Mina. We are going to go there a little while later, but Safa and Marwa are just before that. So basically, these are two hills located near the house of God. It is on Marwa that the incident of Ishmael's sacrifice took place. We know that he was asked to sacrifice. I mean, Abraham was asked to sacrifice Ishmael, but of course, this was something that was a test for him. He was not actually required to give this sacrifice, and it was in this on this Marwa hill that this sacrifice took place. And as such, the real place of slaughter has been extended to Mina for the convenience of the pilgrims, so that when they are to slaughter these animals, then it can go as far as the hills of Mina. So in the tawaf of this place of slaughter, each round begins with Safa and ends on Marwa. And this is what we call the Sa'i. The Sa'i in religious parlance is called, is a ritual that was done. I'm just going to explain its history also and its significance in philosophy. At the moment, we're just trying to go through the sites on regarding Hajj. So next we come to Mina, as you can see in the diagram. This is a vast field between two hills and is situated about 5 kilometers. Generally, it's 5 or 5.5 kilometers from Mecca. The pilgrims stay here after the return from Mecca on the 8th of Zulhajj. We'll just see that also. And from Arafat on the 10th of Zulhajj. So the next we come to Arafat. You can see Arafat being demarcated in the diagram also. Now, this is also a very vast field located about 10 kilometers from Mina. It is here that the Imam of the Muslim delivers a sermon, and until sunset, the pilgrims stand there in a very ceremonial way. It's called the Wukuf. We'll also see that. And at the moment, just take a general idea of the sites. Next, we see the Muzdalifah right at the right. You see, look at the right side of the picture and on the below part, the bottom part, the bottom right part. So on way to Mina, this is a second field where the pilgrims spend the night on their way back from Arafat. And this is situated almost halfway between Mina and Arafat. This is like halfway between Mina and Arafat. This is what we call Muzdalifah. Jamarat, you can see these are the columns which are situated in the middle of Mina. So these are the columns that we pelt stones on right near the end of our ritual of Hajj. And when we are transferring back, we are going back, you can see these three columns being situated here. So they are pelted with stones one by one. So I've yet to explain to you the methodology of Hajj, remember. So we are just having a small round of the sites of Hajj and just have a general idea of how Hajj is outside the Mecca, outside of Haram affair. I mean, you see, Umrah, you must have heard of Umrah, is basically it goes around in Mecca. It's something in which you circumambulate or encircle the Kaaba. But as far as Hajj is concerned, it is an amalgam of rituals that you do within Mecca, and you also go outside to Mecca, like the sites of Mina, Arafat, and Muzdalifah. As now we come to the methodology of Hajj, which is the real thing that you should try to understand. So the Hajj begins with the ihram. So ihram are basically two pieces of unstitched cloth which a Muslim male person has to wear. By the way, there's no age for the as far as Hajj is to be done. You can do it at a younger age also, but as far as the rituals of Islam are concerned, they basically become mandatory on a person once he enters a mature age. So, as far as the Hajj is concerned, pilgrims should go to Mina on the 8th of Zul Hijjah and reside there. So remember, the month of Zul Hijjah is the final month. This is the 12th month, and this has been allocated for Hajj. So on the 8th of Zul Hajj, pilgrims must go to Mina and they should reside there. They should go to Arafat on the 9th of Zul Hijjah. They'll stay the night at Mina. Then on the 9th of Zul Hajj, they will go to Arafat. Now at Arafat, the Imam will deliver the sermon. He will deliver the sermon before the Zuhur, and the prayers of Zuhur and Asr shall be offered by combining and shortening them, which means that we have normal 4 rakats of Zuhur and Asr, but when we reach Arafat, they are reduced to two and they are prayed together. They are combined, so two each. So after the prayer, the pilgrims should celebrate the glory of their Lord and express their gratitude to Him and declare His exaltedness. This is part of the ritual. And then they set off for Muzdalifah. So remember, and this has to be done after sunset. So from Mina to Arafat and then to Muzdalifah. And after arriving at Muzdalifah, the pilgrims should offer the prayers of Maghrib and Isha by combining and shortening them. So remember, they had combined the Zuhur and Asr prayer at Arafat by combining and shortening them. Then they had then had gone to Muzdalifah after sunset. And at Muzdalifah, now that they have arrived at Muzdalifah, they will now offer the Maghrib and the Isha prayer by combining and shortening them. The night would be spent at Muzdalifah. It's like a very vast field, and if you have that experience, you might remember, or maybe you might have this knowledge from your parents or your grandparents. It's one of the toughest nights because this is a night in which all people are just lying down on that field, and it's an open field. It's a very vast field, and it's really difficult to at times even sleep at that night or in that night. So now, after the Fajr prayer, the pilgrims for some time should celebrate the glory of their Lord and express their gratitude to Him. And again, this is something that they already did in Arafat. So then they should leave for Mina. So from Muzdalifah, they should now leave towards Mina once again. So it's like going back. And once they reach the Jamra Aqaba, which is the first column, they should stop reciting the Talbiyah and pelt this Jamra with 7 stones. So the Talbiyah is something we know is recited. So if the pilgrims have brought forth the hadi or the animals of sacrifice with them, it is now incumbent upon them to sacrifice these animals which have been devoted or which are a means of atonement, then they have to be sacrificed. After sacrifice, men should shave their heads or have a haircut. It's not essential that they shave their complete heads. They can just have a haircut also. And women should cut a small tuft of their hair from the end. And then they are required to take off their ihram. So after that, the pilgrims should set off for Baitullah and offer the tawaf. Now, they once again go to the Baitullah and do the tawaf, which is, of course, encircling the Kaaba. Now, with all these restrictions which the ihram entails, will now be lifted. So remember, in the ihram, you are not allowed to, cut your hair. You're not allowed to wear anything which is of the form of perfume or anything which is embellishment. So after that, if a pilgrim wants, he can offer the sa'i of the Safa and Marwa, though it is optional. Then they should go back to Minna once again and stay there for 2 or 3 days, and then every day pelt the first chamra or the first column, then the middle one, and the last one with 7 stones each. And ever since the times of Abraham, these are the rites of Hajj. And you can see that as far as these rites are concerned, they are something which have to be understood in order to we are able to understand the fact that basically it is this Hajj which symbolizes our commitment to God, our dedication to God. It tells us that as far as our Hajj rituals are concerned, they must also be in line with the with that spirit that we are basically dedicating ourselves to God. We are, as far as the rounds of the Kaaba are concerned, basically these rounds symbolize the fact that have devoted ourselves to God, and it was an ancient Arab custom that the animal who was to be sacrificed would be made to encircle the place of that sacrifice also. So because we are symbolizing this effort on our own part, as far as we are concerned, to symbolize jihad. So this is exactly the same symbolism as if we are offering ourselves. But the greatest of these sacrifices, of course, or these rituals, is the fact that when we have animals with us, we will sacrifice them. But if we are combining Hajj and Umrah in one journey, then that atonement has to be made in the form that we must then have that qurbani, or that animal sacrifice, take place, because this is something which is a penalty. I mean, which is something of a penalty, which means that basically this is the penalty that we pay for combining Hajj and Umrah in one journey, because the Almighty actually wants us that we undertake this journey, or these two journeys, in separate, I mean, separately. So we go for Umrah separately, we go for Hajj separately. But if we are to combine Hajj and Umrah in one single journey, then it is basically something that has been allowed, but at the same time, we have to give that penalty in the form of one animal of sacrifice. And if you're not carrying any hadi, so this is as far as Hajj is concerned. I mean, it's a very it's a very rigorous affair. It's like a 4 day. I mean, like from 8th to 12th of Dhul Hajj, it's like 4 or 5 days. That is the minimum amount that is required. But if you are able to understand that basically this journey is symbolizing our war with Satan, it's like an enemy being camped in various places. From Mina, it goes to Arafat, and then to Muzdalifah, and then back to Mina. So it's like a army going from one place to the other. We do that in the command of a single person who is made our in charge. So it's like a person who is also commanding us and administering us. And we culminate this by offering those animals for sacrifice, when it tells us that basically we are offering ourselves, O God Almighty, to you. And today, of course, these animals are being sacrificed, but tomorrow, if our own life is needed, then we shall offer that as well. Now, of course, this is as far as the rituals of Hajj are concerned. Let us now also take a look at the Eid, or the Eid al-Azha, which is the Yom al-Nahr, or the day the sacrifice is made. And this is something which is celebrated the world over by Muslims. So remember, Hajj is specific to people, or to pilgrims who are present in for Hajj. But for the rest of the world, this symbol, or this whole event of Eid is also celebrated, and it is something which is in line with the spirit of presenting ourselves, or at the same time involving ourselves with our brothers who are performing who are offering the pilgrimage. So basically, the rest of the world is celebrating Eid, while the pilgrims are offering Hajj. So I would now like to come to the Eid day, the celebrations of the Eid day, and the most important ritual on Eid day, of course, is the Eid prayer that we offer. So this Eid prayer is offered. We know it's a 2 rakat prayer, and it's a prayer in which we once again listen to the sermon of our Imam, and he tells us how on these occasions we have to present ourselves before the Almighty. We have the various takbeers you might have heard: Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahil hamd. So this is something that is offered in this regard. But now we come to the next part, and that is that once this prayer is finished, we go back and we are required to offer an animal for sacrifice. So first of all, we have to understand that this animal that we sacrifice for on the day of Eid al-Azha is not an obligation. It's not a mandatory ritual. I mean, it is something which is optional, but it is highly recommended. Now, the question arises that what exactly is the significance of this animal sacrifice? I mean, it's like, it does seem like cruelty. You are slaughtering an animal for your own purpose, or for your own personal gain, or your own personal pleasure. So you see, you have to understand that as far as God is concerned, He has made us, and He has made these creatures for our own comfort and benefit. He's not only created animals for our own comfort and our consumption, but also vegetables and grass, and I mean, so many other things which animals consume. They grow up and they become our fodder. So remember, as far as Hajj is concerned, these animals which are presented as sacrifice, or are to be presented as sacrifice, they have a very beautiful underlying significance. And if you are able to understand that, you can easily grasp why the Almighty wants us or highly recommends us to undertake this ritual of animal sacrifice. It's not mandatory at all. It's just a recommendation. So you see, I just pointed it out very briefly that when we are committed, or we are, I mean, making this commitment to God that we will dedicate our lives to Him. So this symbolism of this dedication of our lives to the Almighty is found in this animal sacrifice. And how so? So it goes like this. You see, when you are presenting or you're sacrificing an animal for sacrifice, or to offering it for sacrifice, the Almighty, the desire that you have in your own heart is that today you are slaughtering this animal for the cause of God. But tomorrow, if my own life is needed, I'll not withhold myself. For example, to save someone for some greater cause that might be there, you might need to sacrifice your own life. So it's like symbolizing the fact that God, I can offer my own life, but today, because it's not needed, I'm presenting this animal that you have given me in my place. And tomorrow, if my own life is needed, I'll present that. If you are able to understand this very deep significance, you'll also be able to understand this fact that, you see, basically, charity or any other ritual cannot replace animal sacrifice. People often think that the purpose of animal sacrifice is distribution of the meat, and therefore, if people don't need meat, why can't we give charity to such people? Why is it necessary to give charity to such people? I mean, we can replace it with any other need. So we have to understand that the purpose of charity is to help people. But the purpose of animal sacrifice is not to help people. That help is just secondary. The purpose of animal sacrifice is to make this commitment afresh before God that I am sacrificing this animal before you as a symbol that tomorrow, if I am needed, I'll not withhold myself. So that is the philosophy, that is the depth of animal sacrifice. Now, because of this animal sacrifice, we have meat available for us. So that meat is a secondary use. You can consume that meat yourself, you distribute it among your friends, and you can distribute it among the underprivileged. So that is a prerogative that you have. Basically, that is where we have to understand that as far as our animal sacrifice is concerned, it is not meant in any way to distribute the meat of that animal. That is just a byproduct. I mean, because you're sacrificing that animal, the meat is going to be made available, and that meat which is being made available is to be consumed. So the thing is that just as your spirit of presenting your own lives in for the way of God is to be symbolized, and that symbolism has the form of animal sacrifice. And as I said earlier on, it's not mandatory; it's highly recommended, and you can do it once. I mean, one family can do it one animal sacrifice per family, or it could be many families doing it. And the best thing would be if they're able to witness it. I mean, it's difficult in many countries that you are not able to do so because they have their own abattoirs, they have their own places of slaughterhouses where they slaughter these animals. But at times, if you're able to ask them, they might take you there, or they might even send you a video or picture when they're doing that. So if you're able to hold your breath and watch that sacrifice taking place, this is something which is very recommended because it symbolizes the fact that this is giving your own life for the cause of God if the need arises. And the question that these animals have been made for our consumption is something which God has given us the authority. And that authority is signified basically by when we pronounce this takbir, when we slaughter an animal. So we say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. You all know that slaughtering an animal is something that we don't do ourselves. It's, I mean, without taking the name of the Almighty, we always take the name of God and then we slaughter that animal. And this taking the name of God or this pronouncing the name of God basically symbolizes God's permission to take the life of that animal. So we are taking the life of that animal with God's permission. And that permission is actually symbolized by that takbir that we say at the time of that slaughter. The slaughter could be done from a machine. For example, it could be done collectively at some slaughterhouse because we know that it's difficult to bring in goats and sheep into your own houses in your own city. So it could be done at some place. If you're able to witness it, it is best. But if you're not able to witness it, okay, fine, because you're still able to do it. But as I said, it has a very, very deep significance. It does not relate in any way to charity or to the fact that this is something that can be replaced by charity. So, my dear young minds and listeners, I have taken a little more time just to explain the ritual of Hajj and animal sacrifice. I know Hajj is something that you might, I mean, the methodology that I just explained, it might just go out of your mind. I mean, you might forget it because this is something which is done once in a lifetime. You can always have recourse to it. I just wanted to give you a general idea It's basically a symbolism of our own struggle against Satan, which is found in this ritual of Hajj. And the next day, when you do animal sacrifice, or the day which is meant for animal sacrifice, the sacrifice itself is something which is a huge thing, and it gives you, it takes you to the pinnacle of Islam, which is to submit your own life for the cause of God. Remember, this submission of your own life is the greatest thing, and this is precisely which is called in other formats as martyrdom, in which you are giving up your life for a certain truth that you are bearing testimony to.